Hello, year three. Very weird teaching you over Zoom, and it's my first time, so I apologise. I'm sure I'm going to make a few mistakes, but we'll have a go together, and hopefully we can get through a maths lesson. So we are starting a new unit today on fractions, so I'm going to share my screen with you. Hopefully you've got your books in front of you that you have got ready to write with or write on. So here is the notebook. So you've got today's date, so the 6th of January 2021, and then we've got the WALT. So to recognise and represent unit fractions. So if you want to pause the video, you can then write the date and WALT into your book. So the question on the board is, what do you already know about fractions? Hopefully you've remembered that earlier on in the year we looked at tenths and we were learning to count in tenths forwards and backwards, and you were amazing at that, and we unpicked what a tenth was. So we were looking at how 1/10 would be 1 equal part out of 10 equal parts. So today we're going to be exploring fractions, not just tenths, but lots of different fractions together. Okay, review of learning. So in year 2, you also learned about fractions. So we're just going to go over some of the language that we are going to be using throughout this unit. So we've got denominator, numerator, unit fraction and equal parts. So on the board, I have an example of a fraction. So 1/4, 1 out of 4 equal parts, and I've got some arrows. So the first arrow here is pointing to this line. Does anyone know what we call that line? It's called our fraction line, and that's the first step when we write a fraction. So I'm just going to model it here, and I know you know this already, so it's just a reminder. But when you're writing a fraction, you start with your fraction line, and that tells us that we're dealing with fractions and that we've got our dividing. Okay, so we start with the fraction line, then we will write our denominator. So the 4 here is our denominator, and that tells us how many equal parts our whole is split into. So in this fraction, our whole has been split into 4 equal parts, and that part of the fraction, the bottom half, is called the denominator. And then, so I'm just going to get my pen actually, so I would then write 4, the denominator, so I know how many equal parts my whole split into. Then lastly, the final step, I write my numerator. So the numerator here is 1, and the numerator tells us how many equal parts we are interested in. So in this fraction, my whole is split into 4 equal parts, and I am interested in 1 of those 4 equal parts. And that's the last part of the fraction that you will write. So today, a little challenge is to try and remember those 3 steps. So we start with the fraction line, then we write the denominator, and then we move on to the numerator. Okay. So on the board, I have got a few different fractions. So we have got 1/7, 1/4, 1/4, 1/3, and 1/6. So what do you notice about those 4 fractions that are on the board? So just have a look. If you've got someone in the room with you, you might want to have a quick discussion. What do you notice about those fractions? Hopefully you have noticed that the denominators are all different. So that might be something that you've noticed. So the whole is split into a different number of equal parts in each of those fractions, but our numerator is always 1. So in these fractions, our numerator is always 1. We are interested in 1 of those equal parts. So those are examples of unit fractions. So unit means 1. So if we're dealing with unit fractions, our numerator is always 1. We are interested in 1 of those equal parts. And here's just some more examples here of some unit fractions. So in this example, 1/3, the whole is split into 3 equal parts, and we are interested in 1 of those equal parts. So our numerator is 1. Here we've got 1/10. Our whole is split into 10 equal parts, and we are interested in 1 of those 10 equal parts. 1/5, our whole is split into 5 equal parts, and we are interested in 1 of those 5 equal parts. This example is 1/2. Our whole is split into 2 equal parts, and we are interested in 1 of those equal parts. And the final example, a quarter, our whole has been split into 4 equal parts. And again, we are interested in one of those equal parts. So a unit fraction is when the numerator is always 1. We are always interested in one of those equal parts. Okay, these are also unit fractions. Do you agree? So you might want to pause the video here, and if you've got someone next to you, perhaps you can have a discussion about whether you agree whether these are unit fractions or not, and try and use some of the language that I've just used. So think about using the language of numerator and equal parts and unit fraction. So these are all unit fractions, so hopefully you discussed that. So in the first example, this one here, this is a unit fraction, and we know it's a unit fraction because the numerator is 1. I am interested in one of those equal parts. Here, again, it's a unit fraction. We know it's a unit fraction because, again, it's a third, and we are interested in one of those 3 equal parts. This fraction here, so if we count the equal parts, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we are interested in one of those 8 equal parts. So I'm just going to write those as a fraction for you. So remember, first step, fraction line. My denominator is 3 because I have 1, 2, 3 equal parts. My numerator is 1 because I'm interested in one of those equal parts, and therefore it's a unit fraction. Unit fractions have a numerator of 1, so Colin's just reminding us of that down there. So here, I'm going to start with my fraction line. My denominator, again, is 3 because I've got 1, 2, 3 equal parts. My numerator is 1 because I'm interested in one of those equal parts. It's a unit fractions because unit fractions have a numerator of 1. Last fraction, again, I'm going to start with my fraction line. I've got 8 equal parts. So my whole has been split into 8 equal parts, so that's my denominator. My numerator is 1 because I am interested in one of those equal parts. Therefore, all of those examples are unit fractions because they have a numerator of 1. Okay, true or false? Are these all unit fractions? So again, you might want to just pause your video and have a think or a discussion about whether these examples are all unit fractions. So the first one is a half, the next one, a third. This one, it's saying it's a half, and then the last one, a quarter. So which ones are unit fractions? You might want to just give them a tick or point to the screen. Which ones are not unit fractions? Okay, let's have a look at the first example then. So a half, okay. So we said that a unit fraction, if we skip back, a unit fractions have a numerator of 1. A half, the numerator is 1. The denominator is 2, it's been split into 2 equal parts. So this is an example of a unit fraction. Okay, this one. Oh, well, my numerator's 1, so if I go back, unit fractions have a numerator of 1. So this one must be a unit fraction too. Hopefully you're saying to your screens, no, Mrs. Barnes, it's not a unit fraction. Okay, why is it not a unit fraction? So the numerator's 1, but is the denominator 3? Let's just check. How many equal parts has our whole been split into? 1, 2, 3, 4. So although we are interested in one of those equal parts, the denominator isn't correct. So let's write the correct fraction next to it. Fraction line first. My denominator is 4 because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. And my numerator is 1 because I'm interested in one of those equal parts. So then it would be a unit fraction. So the image is a unit fraction, but actually how it's written, okay, underneath isn't correct. Let's have a look at the next one. So my numerator's 1, so that's a unit fraction. Has my whole been split into 2 parts? Yes, but that magic word, they have to be equal parts. Are those 2 parts equal, do you think? No, so that is not an example of a unit fraction. Okay, let's have a look at the last example. My numerator's 1, so we know from before that Colin said a unit fraction has a numerator of 1. Has it been split into 4 parts? 1, 2, 3, 4. But again, magic word, are they equal parts? No. So that is not an example of a unit fraction. So hopefully you got that right at home. And here's Coco down here. Oh, let's just make sure we can move him. If the numerator is 1, I have 1 of the equal parts. So we know that a unit fraction has a numerator of 1, but it's really important. This is why I've highlighted it here. Those parts have to be equal if they are fractions. Okay, so let's have a little go. So we need to represent some of these unit fractions. We've recognised some unit fractions. We now need to represent them. So here I've got a half. How could we show this? So how could we show a half? So if we think about our denominator first, our whole is split into 2 equal parts. So here I've got my whole. So the whole is divided into 2 equal parts. So I'm going to do that first of all. So I'm going to count how many squares I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I'm dividing 8 into 2 equal parts, then I know I need 4 in each part. So I'm going to split my whole into 2 equal parts. Then I'm going to look at how many of those equal parts I am interested in. So I am interested in 1 equal part of the whole. So I'm just going to quickly scribble on there. So I am interested in 1 of those 2 equal parts. So the whole is divided into 2 equal parts. If the numerator is 1, then I have 1 part of the whole. Okay. Right then, let's see if you can have a go. So you might want to pause the video here, and I would like you to have a go at representing 1/4. So just remember to think about the denominator first. Our denominator tells us how many equal parts our whole is split into. So this time our whole is split into 4 equal parts, and I am interested in 1 equal part of the whole. So if you can, hopefully you've got a ruler at home. Can you draw in your book a bar model to show 1/4? So start off by drawing. If you've got square paper, that's even better, but by drawing a bar, and then split that bar into 4 equal parts as best you can, okay? So you might want to pause the video to do that, and then I will model it on here as well. So 4 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I am interested in 1 equal part of the whole. And we know that this is a unit fraction because the numerator is 1. So I'm interested in 1 of those equal parts. So that would be 1/4. And I might want to show it here. So I'm just going to change that. So again, I'm splitting my whole into 4 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I am interested in 1 equal part of the whole. Okay, hopefully you've got that in your books. Let's have a go at the next one. 1/8. So this time I'm splitting my whole into 8 equal parts, and I am interested in 1 of those equal parts. Okay, you might want to make it easier. Here I've done 4 squares, but we know from our maths lessons that it's actually always easier to try and make it the same number of squares as your denominator. Oh, I'm not sure Mrs. Barnes wants a circle there, does she? Let's get rid of that one. Okay. Okay, so I've drawn a bar model, which is 8 squares, or you could have 8 centimeters along if you've got a ruler. So if you make sure you draw your bar model, and then we're going to show 1/8. So our whole is split into 8 equal parts. So I'm going to do that first of all. 1 equal part, 2 equal parts, 3 equal parts, 4 equal parts, 5 equal parts, 6 equal parts, 7 equal parts, and 8 equal parts. And I am interested in 1 of those equal parts. And there we have represented 1/8. Okay, oh, Colin. So we have Colin in our maths lessons, don't we, year 3? So Colin thinks he has represented 1/5. So the unit fraction 1/5. Do you agree? So just have a little look. So think about the denominator first of all. The denominator is 5. So the whole is divided into 5 equal parts, and I am interested in 1 equal part of the whole because our numerator is 1. Does that image, that bar model, show 1/5? Has it been split or divided into 5 equal parts? And am I interested in 1 equal part of the whole? Hopefully you realise that he is incorrect, and he's incorrect because he hasn't divided his whole into 5 equal parts. He has divided it into 5 parts, but they're not equal. And he is interested in 1 of those parts, but again, they have to be equal. That's really key. So Colin hasn't represented 1/5, and it might be in your books that you want to help Colin out by actually representing 1/5 yourself to show him how it should look. Okay, so now we've got some do-it tasks for you to complete independently. So we've got 1/3, 1/5, and 1/7. So in your exercise books, please can you have a go at representing these unit fractions? And we know they're unit fractions because our numerator is 1. So you might want to pause the video and have a go at that now. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go at that in your book, and I will go through the answers with you. So we've got 1/3 here. So how are we going to represent that unit fraction 1/3? Well, let's have a little think about our denominator first. Our denominator is 3. So the whole is divided into 3 equal parts. So hopefully you divided your whole, not very straight there, is it? There we are. Hopefully you've divided your whole into 3 equal parts. And I am interested in, let's have a look at the numerator, 1 equal part of the whole. So I'm going to shade in 1 out of 3 equal parts. Okay, let's have a look at 1/5. So again, let's start with our denominator. The whole is divided into 5, because our denominator is 5 equal parts. So I'm going to split my whole into 5 equal parts. And I am interested in 1, because our numerator is 1 equal part of the whole. So I'm going to shade in 1 out of 5 equal parts. Okay, the next one, we've got 1/7. So the whole is divided into 7 equal parts because our denominator is 7. So I'm going to do that now. So I've got 1 equal part, 2 equal parts, 3 equal parts, 4 equal parts, 5, 6. Oh, and we need another extra one there. Let's just pop that one in. Okay, 7 equal parts. And I am interested in 1 equal part of the whole because my numerator is 1. So I'm going to shade in 1 out of 7 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm interested in 1 out of those 7 equal parts. So hopefully you got those right in your book. Okay, if you didn't get those right and you just feel like you need some extra practice, which is absolutely fine, then on your maths worksheet, which was posted on your class dojo, you will find just a couple of extra do-it questions. So you've got 1/9, 1/10 and 1/6 to try and represent using the bar model. So you can have an extra practice at this if you feel like you need to. Okay, if you feel like you're okay and you're ready to go a step further, then you will see or you will find a go deep and a go deeper activity. So your go deep activity is all about reasoning. So it says, Colin thinks that he has represented 1/3. Explain why he is incorrect. So I've given you a sentence starter to help you. So Colin is incorrect because. Okay, so you need to think about what's Colin done wrong there. And this is just a reminder for you. So remember to do it. So actually, can you represent 1/3? Do it yourself because sometimes that helps you to realise what mistake Colin has made. Once you've had a go at actually representing 1/3, notice it. So look at what Colin's done and notice what his mistake is. Where has he got a little bit confused? Does he understand what the denominator means and the numerator? And then explain it, okay? So a written explanation of where Colin's gone wrong. Okay, so 1/3. And just to help you, I'm just going to show 1/3 as a fraction. So my fraction line, my denominator is 3 because it's 1/3. So I'm splitting my whole into 3 equal parts. My numerator is 1 because it's 1/3. Okay, once you've done that, if you feel like you want to challenge yourself even further, then you can have a go at the Go Deeper activity. So you've got a few diagrams and you have been asked to represent 1/6 in several different ways. So using the diagram, can you represent 1/6? Okay. Well, good luck. I hope you have fun completing those activities. Obviously, please feel free to send in your work after so I can have a look at your Go Deep and your Go Deeper and give you some feedback. Thank you. Speak to you all later. Have a good day.